Welcome to the Horror Next Door. This is all the horror movies we watched in January 2023. Links to our Letterboxd accounts will be in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing.
Men from 2022, which we watched on a rented Netflix disc. I don't know what I was expecting from this movie, but I definitely didn't get anything I could have ever possibly been expecting. This was freaking wild. I don't even understand everything that happened here. I mean, we noticed pretty early on that all of the men were actually being portrayed by the same actor, and that was already weird enough, but then all this other crazy stuff started happening. It was just really gross and strange. I don't even know what to say about it. It was something that I feel like was worth watching once. It's just that I don't know I could recommend it to everyone so broadly and just say, yes, go watch this, because a lot of people would not have the patience for this. And I could actually see a lot of people being super freaked out or grossed out or possibly even offended by it. Me personally, as someone that likes weird artsy stuff that doesn't always get explained, I thought it was a pretty decent movie. But if you're not into what Psycho would call artsy fartsy type stuff, you probably won't have the patience for it.
I guess if I had to give this a recommendation or not, I would say I do not recommend it. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There are some spots in the movie that I actually did think were kind of interesting. It does have some cool imagery here and there. I did like the tunnel sequence. I think the way the nature looked and everything. I like exploring places like that. It'd be fun to go to a place like that. I don't know. The movie just didn't fully have my attention or entertain me as much as I thought the trailer looked like it would. I didn't hate the movie, but I don't love it either. I guess it's just right in the middle there for me, but I do not recommend it. Sorry. Flight 7500 from 2014, which we watched on good old Tubi. So I have actually seen this movie before, unfortunately. We were flipping through Tubi, we were looking for something to watch, and Hellcat has never seen it, and I said, you need to check this out. And we were kind of tired, so we thought we'd put on something that we wouldn't have to invest too much of our attention into. I don't know the full history of this movie. I'm sure you can look it up and read more about it. But I know this movie was filmed and ready to go and ready to be released, and then somehow, for some reason, it was shelved. It didn't come out for like another couple years, and then they finally just regurgitated it out, and it wasn't really that good. I am a fan of Scout Taylor Compton, and I think at the time I was kind of excited for this, but it is not good. It does have some other notable people in it, I guess you would say. Leslie Bibb and Amy Smart, one of the cast members from The Walking Dead, before they were even on The Walking Dead. The movie's kind of cheesy. What sucks is this movie is actually directed by Takashi Shimizu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He directed a bunch of the original Grudge films, and I think he actually directed one of the American versions, but this movie is just not good. I'm sure there's probably a huge story behind it. It probably had a lot of studio, meddling, getting their fingers in there and not letting him really do what he wanted to do. Or it could have just been a bad script and he was looking for a payday. Who knows what the story is, but this movie is not good. If you're just looking for something corny to watch at midnight, you're laying in bed, flip this on, you might get a kick out of it. Other than that, I don't recommend it.
I feel like if Ryan Quanten wasn't in this, I probably would have said, no, I don't want to watch this. The Nikki Whelan character in this was extremely annoying. Everything about it was ridiculous. I guess I did kind of like the twist, but that's only because my expectations were so low by the time the twist came around that it was like, oh, okay. Definitely don't recommend this movie. Terrifier 2 from 2022, which we watched on my awesome Blu-ray. We've already spoken about this because we were lucky enough to be able to go see it in the theater. I was super excited to watch it again, and it didn't disappoint. I still felt there were parts where it dragged a little bit, but it's a blast. It is visually crazy. The effects are just insane. I love Art the Clown. He freaks me out and makes me laugh at the same time. I love Lauren Lavera and her character. This movie is just fucking awesome. I very highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too far into talking about this. If you want to hear more about what I think about this movie, you can go watch the What We Watched video from October 2022. Long story short, I highly recommend this movie. It is awesome. You're going to love it. Go check it out. Jason X from 2001, which we watched on my glorious Scream Factory Blu-ray box set. So if you're new here, on every Friday the 13th, we watch a Friday the 13th movie, obviously, but we do things a little bit differently. I have one of those random generator websites saved on my phone, and it has all the Friday the 13th movies in there. And when we're ready to watch one, we hit the button and it spins the wheel, and whatever it lands on, that's what we watch. And this time it landed on Jason X. And honestly, I actually wanted to watch this again because I had just done the Jason Unmasked video. I'm not going to talk about this forever, but I would recommend it. This is Kane Hodder's last outing as Jason. It's a great movie. Look past all the in-space stuff and just look at the fact that it's a Jason movie and there's a lot of kills and it's fun. I recommend it.
Jason X definitely has its own feel and personality from the rest of the franchise, and I really like that about it. I still, to this day, no matter how many times I've seen all the Friday the 13th movies, mix them up. I get confused about which person and which kill is in which movie, and that obviously doesn't happen with this. This is very memorable. I love the way Uber Jason looks. He's badass. Yes, there's some cringy acting, some annoying characters. A lot of it is just ridiculous, but I like ridiculousness, and I like this movie probably a lot more than I should. I definitely recommend it. ATM from 2012, which I rented on a Netflix disc. I wanted to watch this because my sister mentioned it to me and I had never seen it. The movie was frustrating a lot of the time because it just seemed like they could have escaped the situation they were in multiple different ways, but they were just too stupid or cowardly or whatever the case may be. Regardless of that, at least it's unique. I haven't seen something else even remotely like this. The premise is that they're trapped inside of an ATM with a guy outside wanting to hurt and or kill them, and again, it just seems like they really could have gotten out of the situation much easier than all of the ridiculousness that happens. But it's entertaining and I do recommend it for what it is. I think it's a fun movie to watch when it's cold outside or near Christmas time because that's the setting in the movie. Just go in without high expectations. I think it's a pretty decent flick.
So about halfway through watching this movie, I pulled up Letterboxd on my phone and I noticed that I had already rated this film. So at some point in my life, I had watched this already and I didn't remember anything about it or even the fact that I have even seen it. I'm not saying that because the movie's bad or anything. It's just for some reason I forgot about this movie completely. Watching it a second time, which was almost like watching it for the first time, it was pretty entertaining. It's not the best thing of all time, but it was fun to watch. It did have some cleverness to it here and there. Kind of predicted the ending a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit predictable. Nonetheless, it was fun, and for that, I would recommend it. Pray for the Devil from 2022, which we rented on a Netflix disc. Boy, this movie. This is the definition of what I call just mainstream Hollywood garbage horror movies. This was a theater release, and man, I've seen so many good horror films that are just independent, made for like $8,000, that are so much better than this, that should be in the movie theater. And then this is what you get in the movie theater. It's movies like this that kind of make me angry because I feel like people that aren't really into horror movies, but they kind of go out with their friends and they see the new horror movie. I feel like they kind of think that horror movie fans, like, this is what we watch all the time. No, this is garbage. This movie sucks and I don't recommend it.
When this Netflix disc came in the mail, I asked Psycho, what the heck, why did you even rent this? I legit didn't want to watch this movie at all after seeing the trailer. I knew it was going to be garbage, and yet somehow it was still even worse than I thought it was going to be. I very, very rarely give out half stars on Letterboxd. I'm really forgiving. There are so many crappy horror movie packs and other just low budget or ridiculous things that I've given 2 or sometimes even 3 stars to. This can't even compete with some of that because everything about it was stupid. The only thing that I could even say was, I guess, the lead actress was decent. I have nothing else positive to say about it whatsoever, and the effects were laughably bad. Could not recommend this less. Do not waste your time. Hunting Humans from 2002, which we watched on Tubi. although I do also own it on DVD. This DVD was actually one of the first things I ever ordered from Amazon. I really like this movie. I remember renting it from Hollywood Video a really long time ago. Many, many years later, getting to meet Kevin Kangas through Psycho, since they're friends, was really cool. And I was able to tell him, I fracking love your movie. I don't know. I had a lot of fun watching it again. There were things about it that I forgot. There were lots of lines of dialogue that after interacting with Mr. Kangas a few times, I was like, yeah, that's totally his attitude and humor. So it made me laugh even more than ever. I just think it's really, really creative. I do highly recommend this movie. I know it's not for everyone, but I think it's really creative and unique.
So I'll just say I highly recommend this movie and you should go check it out. It's free on Tubi. The only other thing I'll say is, when are we getting Territory 3, Kangas? Bed Rest from 2022, which we watched on Tubi, which is actually a Tubi original film, which pretty much sums up everything right there. This movie was not very good. It's very predictable. It has a lot of cliches that you've seen 1,000 times. There is a little bit of a twist ending, but nothing that's gonna knock your socks off or anything like that. This movie is better than Pray for the Devil, but it's not saying very much. So for that, I do not recommend it.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is another one of those movies that we mentioned in our trailer videos that we were excited about. I have a feeling it was probably slim pickings that month because I know that it being a Tubi original and things of that nature, that I was skeptical of it to begin with. Regardless of that, it was still a letdown. I do think the trailer made it look better than it actually is. There were a couple of cool moments, but most of it was really just ridiculous and silly. Something that the main character was doing was just like, what? Why? Why do you think that? It was just so stupid and it drug out forever. And it was obvious that the person she believed she was interacting with was not the person. Was not the same person. So the fact that that was such a huge plot device, what moved the story along, it just grated on my nerves a little bit. Definitely don't recommend this. Marrowbone from 2017, which I rented from Netflix on a disc. This is actually also on Hulu, which I discovered after I received the disc in the mail. Anyway, I wanted to see this because it has Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things, Mia Goth, and George McKay. But I guess I just felt like the time period it was set in and stuff, I wasn't vibing with it right out of the gate. It just made the story seem a little bit corny, for lack of a better word. It felt like a family film, almost like a Disney film for the longest time. Once it really started getting going and things started being explained and they revealed more and more of the story, it started getting really good. And I definitely liked the twists and I loved the end. Not the very, very end, but like the major twist at the end. I do recommend the movie. I just think that you have to have some patience, especially because, like I said in the beginning, it just does not feel like a horror movie at all. I think Psycho checked out pretty early just because of the tone that it started out with, but it does get better and I think it's worth watching at least once.
So yeah, I definitely did check out of this a little early on. This is definitely one of those slow burn type of films. But as Hellcat said, there were a lot of parts of this that it really didn't feel like a horror movie. And even the parts of the movie where, the horror is happening, it wasn't anything crazy. But the movie wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst thing ever. It wasn't Pray for the Devil or anything like that. I guess I'm kind of split down the middle. Like, I would recommend it if you maybe aren't a huge horror fan or you're not a huge fan of all the blood and guts, Terrifier type stuff. Also, if you're a huge fan of just slow burn type horror films, then maybe this one's right up your alley. But at the same time, I wouldn't recommend it because I thought it was a little bit boring. But like I said, it wasn't that bad. Maybe you'll like it more than I did. So I would recommend it and I kind of wouldn't recommend it at the same time. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Kind of hard for me. I'm kind of split on that one as far as the recommendation goes.
As always, we thank you so much for watching. Leave us a comment if you have any horror movie recommendations and we will add them to our watch list. Until next time.